All right, here with more analysis is Nancy Grace is back with us. All right, Nancy, there's a lot, again, to unpack that's new tonight. A new message. Now they're back at the home. Investigators are back at the home. A new investigation. Now the media has been pushed out. Again, no proof of life. And, you know, the deadline is getting near. And there's no path to communication with this individual. You know, you covered crime your entire adult life. What do you make of all this?
A lot. From the get-go, I have believed that the author of these ransom notes is local. He has, it's a he, statistically, he has an attachment to KOLD. Did he grow up there? When I was writing my first fiction book, I had to refer to a radio station, a TV station. I went to the one of my childhood, WMAZ. A sentimental attachment. Did he grow up there? Does he watch it? I guarantee you he's watching right now. Now, while there was no proof of life in this next missive, we are told that there was sensitive information. What does that mean? That could mean anything. That could mean her favorite color is purple. She likes oatmeal in the morning. Her first pet as a little girl was cinnamon cat. I mean, it could mean anything. It could be anything in there that only she would know and only the family would recognize. Now, why is he choosing to communicate with a media outlet? Probably because, you know, trying to communicate with law enforcement is like Daniel walking into the lion's den. No. He feels comfortable writing KOLD. He didn't put another deadline in. And most important, while everyone is looking at the negative aspects of this last missive, I'm looking at the positive. This guy wants to deal. He wants to talk. I'm sure there's a number of reasons he's not communicating directly with Savannah or a sibling or law enforcement. He feels at home, better with, more protected with KOLD. And I guarantee you something else. There was something in that letter that just came down today that put them up on the top of that roof, and they are now scouring the foothills in the area. The homeowner association in that neighborhood has contacted everyone living there saying they're coming, they're searching, please open up your properties. Interesting that they are searching the properties of people in that very area, home to home, curtilage to curtilage, that's garage, shed, dollhouse, you name it. Why? I'm curious. That tells me something, but I'm very intrigued with them going up on the roof. What was in that note that put them up on the roof?
Okay, they went back to the house. Law enforcement has gone back. By the way, they have over 100 local people with adjoining counties participating and the FBI. So there are a lot of resources now on the ground here. Back at the house, media removed. That's interesting to me. They don't want this guy knowing what they are up to, although you can see the shot from the roof. Now, one other piece of the puzzle. There was a Circle K that confirmed that law enforcement did go to one of their stores receiving a tip regarding a vehicle of interest, and their team provided them access to the store's surveillance video. Now, this is an issue that we discussed in detail last night, and that is, okay, there's one way in, there's one way out. At some point, there has to be some camera, someplace picking up license plates, vehicles, type of vehicles that are in the surrounding area, were in the surrounding area at the time of this abduction.
It's very simple. From the stream to the river, from the river to the ocean, there's an outlet. Just as you're saying, there's an outlet, even though there may not be cameras that are helping us in that neighborhood, there's got to be a stop sign or a red light. And another thing about this quick trip, where they got the surveillance, same thing happened in Brian Kohberger. Same thing happened in Alex Murdaugh. You follow the road. You follow it to its natural end, its turning point, its dead end. You have to go one way or the other. And this quick trip is also telling me the direction the perp went. See what I mean? You get to the red light, that way or that way, he's going that way. Okay, what is that way? Where is that leading me? It's slim, true, but it's something. I would be on those red lights on every LPR license plate reader. Along that way, there are about 200 in the Tucson area. Knuckle down. Also, I just wanted to tell you, I spoke with one of the founding members of CAST, Cellular Analysis Survey Team, and they are all over it tonight. They have people there in D.C. working with people locally. The locals are trying to download what they can from the towers, and those elsewhere remote are analyzing it. Remember, there's only 3 really big servers, and that would be AT&T, T-Mobile, and VCW. All the other mom and pops use those lines. They are now identifying cars in that area that were there between that time, that critical time frame between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. And they're finding cars that went in and out, not like an Uber driver, but stayed for a certain period of time and left. And remember, it's 2:30 in the morning. Who's driving around at that time of the morning on an early Sunday morning? I have great faith. Now, here's the problem with that, Sean. Burner phones. Because when you prepay, you can put, hey, my name is Bugs Bunny. You don't have to put your name or your real address, your real phone number, none of that. Because if it's a burner phone turning up in that area, they then have to find out where was it purchased, try to get video, the works. Then they'll have to see who did Bugs Bunny call? Is he calling his girlfriend? Is he calling his dope dealer? It's very hard when you got a burner phone, but I know that CAST, Cellular Analysis Survey Team, is about 3 inches up that tailpipe tonight.
Let's go back to what Harvey just revealed to us. In the initial letter that he got at TMZ, the letter said that Nancy would be returned back to Tucson within a specific time frame. That's very telling. He actually gave us a really good perimeter, great analysis of the distance it would take to drive back to Tucson. That's part one. Number two, neighbors say a suspicious white van was spotted on their street only days before Guthrie went missing. You know, one particular neighbor said he informed police about the unmarked van when he was questioned by authorities. Okay. This doesn't look like the type of neighborhood, Nancy, where you just happen to stop and let me sit here for a few hours and eat my lunch. And most workers are in a van that is marked with their company logo. So that seems odd to me. That seems like surveillance to me.
Yes, it does. And the fact that this was noticed by more than one person gives it the indicia of credibility. It's not just one Gladys Kravitz next door going, hey, I saw a white van. No, it's more than one person, and they seem to be credible. So that needs to be chased down. And now that they have the general description of the van and they've got a date, they're going to be able to go back to that red light I keep talking about and get a description and maybe even a license and track it down. That is big. Yes, it's a needle in a haystack, but it's something, Sean.
Time is going by, and apparently she's not in the best of health. She needs her medication, and time is really of the essence. And that second deadline warning that Harvey mentioned, that's chilling. That's why I think law enforcement is all in right now. Nancy, you've been phenomenal. We appreciate you as always. Thank you. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.